Hello, this is Crystal Racer here with a video about Michael Andretti being rumoured to buy out Sauber, aka Alfa Romeo. Now, obviously last month Michael Andretti was rumoured to be buying out Horse, but of course those rumours have since been quashed. But this month, though, he's now been rumoured to be chasing after Sauber. Now, there have been rumours that he's actually in fact a front for a secret investment company. But let's be honest, Sauber are very much a very grey face in Formula 1. They've been in F1 since 1993, but all they've ever done, apart from when they were BMW Sauber, when they won races and got podiums regularly, they've been mostly a solid midfield team, lacking any real identity, if we're going to be truly honest. They're the only F1 team based out in Switzerland, but partly due to, of course, the lack of F1 infrastructure down in Switzerland and the lack of F1 community surrounding that part of Europe. Sauber are very middling and at best mostly tend to stay around the lower midfield. But of course, there are some things that could make Michael Andretti's move for Sauber likely. The fact that he has a successful IndyCar team, he has a semi-successful sports car team, of course F1's social media growth, partially thanks to Drive to Survive, thanks to Netflix, and of course the budget cap, which of course means that of course teams will not be allowed to spend more than $145 million starting from next year. Now, funnily enough, that Alfa Romeo are actually only operating on about over $100 million a year, hence why they're so far down the field. And whilst it doesn't necessarily create an equal playing field, the cost cap will gradually drop down further for 2023, where it'll be down to 140 and then possibly $135 million for 2024. But what needs to be said, though, of course, Michael Andretti, as you probably have realised, is American. Liberty Media are American. And under the new rules proposals, revamping the sport course, of course, there will be more prize money being given out for the teams, especially in regards to the fact that the calendar is now being expanded to 23 races a year. Of course, you've also got to realise the new technical regulations mean that the cars are going to have be more highly regulated in terms of standard parts. And I'm looking through an article by therace.com, and according to MSP Sports, McLaren are rumoured to be worth around 750 million, and meaning that of course if Andretti and Sauber are expected to form a deal, Sauber and Andretti are expected to have a combined value of $500 million. Now, for those of you wondering why I mentioned McLaren, they recently bought a huge stakeholding of Schmidt Peterson Motorsport IndyCar team, which has expanded their racing activities. Now, of course, you have to realise Williams sold themselves to Dorrington Capital last year for $170 million, including debt. Whilst, of course, Force India were bought out by Lawrence Stroll for $140 million. And, of course, they're now renamed as Aston Martin due to the fact that Lawrence Stroll, of course, bought shares in Aston Martin. And Aston Martin, of course, are now the face of the Stroll team. Now, I've got no news of who exactly Michael Andretti might be fronting for in terms of a capital gains fund, but there surely has to be some capital gains fund somewhere. But I've got to really have a go at Sauber for their performances this year. You know, this year they have honestly bottled P8 in the championship. I know obviously people will say, you know, what happened in Hungary and Belgium was a big fluke with Williams scoring 10 points in Hungary and then scoring another 10 points at Belgium due to, of course, the race being called off after one lap. But the fact of the matter is, those two races were huge opportunities for Alfa Romeo, and he blew it. And of course, in the last race, of course, Giovinazzi had a chance of scoring a point. But the thing is, though, in the last 10 laps, Kimi was much faster. Kimi was closing him down. And then apparently, Giovinazzi did a lap that was 5 seconds quicker than Kimi on the last lap. But of course, you have to realise, Giovinazzi apparently said that he was already told that he could have gone faster in the last 2 laps, which is absolutely stupid. And the fact that he was waiting for the team to tell him whether he could push or not, which is just baffling, and it just kind of tells you how bad the communication and organisation through Alfa Romeo is. You know, there's been a lot of dodgy pit stops, poor pit strategies, you know, stupid things like presenting Antonio Giovinazzi a punctured tyre, which was apparently had been wrapped inside a blanket despite already having a puncture. But my God, what slack work that goes on in that team. And then of course, you know, during Friday practice at Turkey, Kimi having his drink bottles being spilled over his feet yet again for a second time this season. Of course, I know a lot of people had to go at Kimi, but it's like, you know, I mean, are you going to react that well if you have a load of water spilt on your foot and potentially you go into a braking zone going down from like 200 miles an hour to like 100 miles an hour and your foot slips off the brake pedal? It's not very safe, is it? Now, of course, there's also been rumours, of course, who will take over the second seat at Alfa Romeo. Of course, Antonio Giovinazzi is a shout, but it does seem like his chances are diminishing by the moment. Ferrari are still backing him, but really, you know, Ganyu Zhou has been heavily rumoured with money from China. You know, the CCP throwing money at certain companies, the Communist Party. He has been rumoured to be possibly bringing up to about $30 million for next year if he turns up, but apparently there's been rumours that his management team have demanded a 2-year deal up to about a 3-year deal, which is kind of absurd because, of course, Sauber also have Phil Porcheri in their junior ranks, and Phil Porcheri definitely deserves a seat in F1 for 2023. Other rumours include Colton Herta, of course, his sponsor Gainsbridge could well throw a bit of money to send him off to F1, but I don't think they have that much money. Kind of unlikely they will come to F1, but he is only 21 years old. Frederick Vasseur did throw a lot of praise on Oscar Piastri, who is currently leading the Formula 2 Championship, but Oscar Piastri has no sponsorship money, and he is kind of stuck with the Alpine Junior Academy. And in addition, Nick de Vries has been rumoured to be coming to Formula 1, but that does seem to have died out recently. I haven't really heard much news, and Nick de Vries is a member of the Mercedes Formula E team, and he also does testing for the F1 team. Of course, you know, look, I mean, the thing with, in terms of Sauber's infrastructure, you know, they have a high quality wind tunnel and a new simulator being built, which Kimi's done a fair bit of testing on. And Andretti Autosport, you know, I mean, with the new financial regulations, a lot of people think that, you know, you can invest quite a fair bit of money in F1 now, but due to, you know, Liberty Media and the FAA changing the regulations, but, you know, it remains to be seen, really. Of course, to those of you wondering, yes, I know something that the wind tunnel was built by BMW, that is true, but Sauber have updated it since then. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, if they didn't update it, like, how on earth can it fit in the current regulations? The size of the cars in there right now, they can't. Of course, those also wondering, Zach Brown is linked to Andretti's public SPAC fund, but Zach Brown does pretty much keep most of his business activities confined to McLaren, so he will not be having any part in this Alfa Romeo Sauber deal or this Andretti deal. But having said that, SPAC are going to have to cough up more than $250 million in order to buy out the longboat company that owns Sauber. It's very complicated. For those wondering, though, Colton Herta only has 32 super license points, which is 8 short of the 40 required for F1 for next year. Don't know, to be honest. I know some crazy things could happen, but... And of course, you know, Grosjean is going to be driving for Andretti Motorsport next year. I mean, he could return to F1, but frankly, I mean, should he come back? Not really. I think we've kind of seen enough of Grosjean. Yes, he's doing well in IndyCar racing, but frankly, F1 is kind of, he's done enough of F1, really. Alex Rossi, he's coming off a bad year in IndyCar racing. Not really much point in having him around. And of course, I know other people are probably talking about having Mick Schumacher join race for Alfa Romeo due to his bad relationship with Nikita Mazepin, but unfortunately he was announced to be renewing. He did renew his contract with Haas next year, so that's not really going to happen. Of course, Frederick Vasseur is a part of the Eslero board. I don't know who they are, but apparently they are a front for the Tetra Pak family who own Sauber, so... You know, Longbow Finance, of course, the company that Marcus Ericsson was linked to. I'm not sure if he's still linked to them. I mean, of course, he's not coming back to Formula 1. There's no doubt his days are over, and he wasn't even that good when he was in F1. And why did Andretti fail to get hold of Haas? I don't know what happened. Haas, we all know Gene Haas is kind of a questionable character, to be honest, and of course, you know, in many ways the Haas F1 team are basically more nothing but a glorified IndyCar team running an F1 team at this point. You know, renting a chassis from Dallara, renting engine and gearbox parts from Ferrari, and you know, their car, and of course they've done zero development of their car this year, meaning that the car's been absolutely rubbish. I mean, Mazepin's been rubbish, but then that doesn't really take much of a genius. I don't know, really, to be honest, why Michael Andretti really wants to come to Formula 1. Does he actually want to come to Formula 1? I mean, what is he going to get out of it? Because he's running an F1 team. Not an F1 team. He's currently running an IndyCar team, a sports car team. I think he used to run a Formula E team with BMW. Not sure what happened there. I think he also, or is still running a supercar team down in Australia. And now, of course, you know, he wants to stretch his hands into F1. Well, I'm not really sure what else to say. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to Crystal Racing. I'll see you again next time.